Good now, revolutionaries, and welcome to the Rise Up Morning Show. Today is Monday, July 7th. We're so glad you're here. It's your place for helpful news, commentary, answers to your crypto questions. And today we've got a great guest interview lined up for you. If you want to play along at home, you need to Google Joe Mangrum, spelled just like it sounds. We'll have all the links for you in just a second, and they'll be in the description if you're listening to my voice in the future. But first, I got to know, how are you guys? Do you have all your fingers and all your toes from Independence Day celebrations?
Well, you should know I only light fireworks between my toes. So you got me. Yeah, I'm missing all my toes. But no, I have all my fingers. I got all my digits. Just was drinking a bunch of dirty bananas, had midnight donuts every single night at Backyard Donuts. I was at the Vineyard, Martha's Vineyard, and had just a bunch of beach days, got some good color, consumed at least 2,000 calories of dirty bananas or mudslides every single day, with an additional 1,000 calories at midnight right before bed of donuts. My diet is trashed, but so too are the diets of those chickens. I just kept throwing food for them because they're silly. That, and also the first day one was brutally murdered by a raccoon, like brutally murdered by a raccoon, and we were like, "Oh God!" So we had to appease their PTSD.
Yeesh. That sounds fun, debaucherous, and maybe a little traumatizing
for the chicken, certainly. And it was a little baby chicken too. We were like, "Oh no, little baby chicken." Anyway, but 4th of July, so it was a good time.
Yeah. What about you, Alex? What about
Alex? You are muted.
You are. I was like, he is the strong and silent.
Yeah, there it is.
What about you, Alex?
Actually, that answer holds. I didn't do anything. I worked.
Yeah, that's a work day for you.
Yep. But,
May I suggest at least 10 drinks and a gigantic barrel of grubs to throw for chickens?
Could be the move.
Could be the move. Also, if you ever go to Martha's Vineyard is the I will die on this hill.
Chicken capital of the country?
No, it is the sandwich capital of the country. There's like 3 places there that have some of the greatest. It's like the greatest concentration of sandwiches. You'll be able to find a place with a better sandwich here and there that's more your style for XYZ, but like just go to Tiger Hawk in in Oak Bluffs. If you ever go to Martha's Vineyard, anybody here, and it's like the greatest Thai fusion sandwich food place. You can get like a banh mi. You can get a banh mi that's like a little bit more Americanized. You can get a Thai styled egg sandwich. You can get a regular egg sandwich there with just like some Thai sauce. You can get like a few other American things, more traditional Thai things, fusion in between, as I've highlighted, fire merch. And I've said before I would punch a baby for dark chocolate. I would punch a teenager.
You've made a
for
point
that
to
sandwich.
say that a lot of times.
I want everybody to know how willing I am to go to war and commit war crimes for dark chocolate. But
I think that you're just more willing, or you are more interested in letting people know how much you dislike babies.
I'm fine with babies, but let me know when they're kids and they're fun. And then I can teach them how to like do swim lessons. And when we can go like hang out and do like, I could have an excuse to go to like the science center because the science center has too many kids. If you go there as an adult, it looks weird in Boston. You can't do that anymore. And there's so many buttons to press. So many buttons to press.
I think anyone who talks to you for 18 seconds would know that you belong there.
I belong there.
If you've got a kid you want to let Will borrow and take to the Science Museum, then...
And it's not in a weird way. This isn't going to be weird. It's going to be a great day.
It wasn't until you said that. Now everyone's going to question you.
Damn it.
Oh my gosh. What have we set ourselves up for? Today is a really...
We're so demonetized.
Is it... It's a great Monday, and I needed to pick me up because I was kind of dragging this weekend. We had fireworks and stuff, but I don't know. I had a hard time sleeping yesterday, had a hard time sleeping the night before, and I've been battling a YouTube goblin. But I think we're live on YouTube now. So to all our friends,
we are
listening on YouTube, on LinkedIn, on Facebook, wherever you are, whenever you listen, we're so grateful that you're here, really, truly. And I don't know why you choose to put up with us sometimes, but we have justified it today. We've got actually, I think, a really great show for folks. If you are somebody who is crypto curious and you're not like a tech bro or a financier, then you might often wonder when you hear about cryptocurrency, like, why might it matter for me? And today's guest is a great example of another flavor of the crypto space, all the kinds of things that we can do here with the technology that makes cryptocurrency possible. I'm very excited to introduce to our audience my new friend, Joe Mangrum. I have followed Joe on X for probably 4 or 5 years, since 2021. At that time, he became an OG Bored Ape holder, but he has been an artist for decades. And check out some of his work. Spoiler alert, if you're listening to my voice in audio land and you want to see some of these incredible visuals, head on over to YouTube, or you can find this in the Rise Up Morning Show playlist. Joe is an artist whose work is ephemeral, physical. He does sand paintings and multi-medium installations that really provoke a lot of thought around many kinds of issues around our relationship to consumerism, to power, to technology. And I love it because, as you can see here, these artworks made of sand will fade away. He uses other kinds of ephemera, biomaterials in his work, and he creates on-chain equivalents of these artworks so that even though they will fade away, they can last forever in one form or another. He has got an alter ego, Pancho Poppins, that we'll talk a little about. He has been on Sesame Street, and he is about to release a book that allows you to explore his artwork right from your own home. But today, he's joining us on the Rise Up Morning Show. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our friend Sandman, Joe Mangrum. Joe, welcome to the show.
Good morning. Good morning. How are you?
Man, we're doing good. We're doing good. It's good to see you. I see you've even got we were talking about it before, you get the digital background going on for your office, and you've got some of the work on the wall there.
Yeah, that's a shaped, carved and shaped piece. It's called Mammillaria copod. I kind of name a lot of my works after combined species. So it's different jellyfish and desert plants and different, it's like a hybridization of species as a form of evolution.
Huh.
I like it. Trippy.
So I gave you a brief intro there, but I always like to ask artists that we talk to and folks who are building something, creating something, how do you describe your art or your process in your own words?
It's an exploration of, just I found the mandala shape early on through lots of travel around the world when I just got out of college, and it was for me it was like a conduit of how to communicate to the entire planet simultaneously and find something familiar within their own culture to then connect to which I can then riff off of and be creating biological sort of iconography and you at first I was using found objects, so I was using auto parts, computer parts, food, money, bullets, flowers, seeds, berries, money, and different things, and then gradually translated that into more of a hieroglyphic language as I moved into sand, and creating sort of a live organism shape that's like breathing and living out of it rather than a static, mathematically precise pattern, but making something that's a living organism that fades away, and that using that sort of organic shape and placing it within an urban grid like New York City. It's like it's the flower that grows in the cracks and spreads, and the symbolism between the grid and that organic shape is really at the heart of what I do, in terms of one is created for ease and move of commerce, and the other is life itself in a sense. And so it's It's life is fragile, and it's extend the metaphors from there. But it's just about experience, and then just engaging with people IRL, and keeping watching kids and adults, and very elderly, it connects with people on all levels, from a street art level, from a just a color and beauty, and kids love the sand, and just loving the conversations that come out of it, because people pour their own expectations onto it. I just create the canvas for it to happen, and then I engage with people in a way that creates a conversation around it that becomes their own expression of it. But it's then I can add my own ideas into it. But ultimately, it's a living, breathing artwork that then disappears with the conversation.
Yeah. Also, speaking of people interacting with your artwork, and especially kids, I learned the other day, we didn't talk about this when we met in New York, but Lore told me, he was in the audience the other day. He said, by the way, Joe's been featured on Sesame Street. I was like, wait a second. I was like, what? And then I was doing my research for the episode, getting your links, and I was like, sure enough, there he is.
That's awesome.
Hanging out with some of our favorite puppets. And I just want to know, like, as a sidebar, what was that like, getting to showcase your art on Sesame Street and interact with those characters?
It's really amazing. Joey Mazzarino is the puppeteer that's operating Murray. There's actually two people operating Murray and Ovejita there. It's like, there's, and one hand is operated by another person on Murray, and then he's the mouth and the head, the mouth and the hand, one hand, and then another person's the other hand. So it's a really bizarre configuration, and he is like an improv master. He worked with Jim Henson back in the day and took over a lot of his puppets after Jim's passing, and just the whole thing was improv. He was just like asking me questions, and I'd react, and it's really difficult to talk to a Muppet without keeping a smile on your face and just laughing internally the whole time. But truly a joy. Sesame Street's an institution. It's been around as long as I have. 1969 was started. I've since met many people in New York City that either worked on it or had different interactions with Sesame Street, and then just engaging with kids on the subway that like recognize you randomly, and they're like telling their mom and whispering, and then mom gets up and is like, "Were you on Sesame Street?" And I'm like, "Yeah."
Nice.
It's pretty bizarre. It's a lot of fun. And
I did really like,
and this was 12, 15 years ago now.
I really like, there was a comment on TikTok when you were explaining how how many people are operating the Muppets. Someone goes, "Wait, they're not real?" Shattered. Childhood innocence.
Damn,
shattered
that NDA that I had.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And I, when I met you, I had been following your work, like I said, since just a couple years ago. I became aware of your work when you came to the crypto space, and I'd be curious if you would talk a little about that. Like, how did you, as an artist, come to the blockchain space, especially like a lot of what you do is ephemeral and a lot of what you do is physical. And so I'd be curious to know, were you into digital art before crypto? And if not, just generally, like how did you discover blockchain and what it could do?
I actually got into blockchain in 2017, and it was a way to record provenance of my physical works. And so I started using this platform called Verisart and putting QR codes that directly link to a digital COA on chain. And then, I wasn't really much into crypto. Maybe I bought $20 worth of Bitcoin and it went to 200. I was like, woohoo! And then I sold it because I was a starting artist and paid my rent or something. And then, the COVID happened. We were all locked down on Clubhouse, and started hearing about NFTs, and I was like, oh yeah, why not? And then started collecting, NFTs, and managed to get into the best club in the internet, Bored Ape Yacht Club. And,
Okay. And that's something I want to ask you about too, because you are not only in the club, but you were there at the start and have built a brand around your presence in the Bored Ape Yacht Club. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, it was like, all of a sudden, with COVID, all my live events and things had evaporated. And, there wasn't an opportunity to do live events or to make sand paintings or any of that. And I wanted to explore some other things that, with developing the IP. And what I have a sort of fun, I do a little voice or whatever, and I've always kind of mimicked voices, but I've also been a cook for, all my life, and enjoyed cooking at home, and had developed a recipe around lasagna. And I started having conversations with this James Beard Award winner, Jennifer English, and we decided, I wanted to bring this to market, and she's got a lot of experience in the food industry and so forth. And so we, have been working on just building the IP on a, sort of long timetable, but it's trying to get its own funding and all that is a whole other story. But in between, I've created this AR filter. We've got this AR filter, so I voiced the character and did cooking shows and different things. And it's kind of still something that we're exploring, trying to get off the ground. But it's been a fun time to explore other talents besides the visual art. But I'm still very focused as an artist. I've been doing it for decades.
Of course.
Yeah.
Focused and, expanding. It's always like, how do you keep the main thing? But also, if this is fun, why not? And that's Pancho Poppins. Where did the name come from? I'm just curious.
He's actually the Web3 version of my dog passed away.
Oh, that's cute.
Oh, wait a minute.
Pancho Alexander Poppins was his full name, and he wore monkey pajamas. He wore sailor suits. He was a little papillon with very cute, and then he I'd put him up on those children's rides out in front of the mall or whatever, and he'd be driving a boat. So it was just all kind of fitting that he was in a yacht club. He sailed. We called him our little monkey. It was just like, okay. And then he passed in October of 21, and Pancho Poppins Web3 Bored Ape was born.
What nice. How did you come to find out about the Bored Ape Mint? And you said it's the best club on the internet. I think there are some people in our audience who will remember the Bored Ape Yacht Club. There are some people who will have been a part of the ecosystem, like Will. And then there are some people who are like, wait, is that those monkey pictures? What? So how did you come to be aware of it? And I'd be
It was like during COVID and the Clubhouse era of social audio, and I was actually working on my house, wearing my headphones, and went into this Clubhouse room, and it had minted out, and I was working all day, and kind of just people were going, making monkey noises and going crazy over it, and I was like, this sounds like a really great thing to get into. It's got the commercial IP. It was a very new concept of decentralized IP and all this. And so I just, scraped together the funds and got some that afternoon. It just kind of hit me mid-afternoon that I had this money tucked away, and I was like, all right, let's do this. And it's been a wild ride, the accelerated pace of it when it came together, and then just ups and downs ever since of the crypto market. So it's still hanging in here, and playing around and doing the exploring the IP.
Yeah, it's very cool. And I did think it was neat that when we were in New York together, and when we met, not only was Joe wearing the poncho shirt with the black and white sort of sailor vibe shirt, but he has this gumball machine that I showed there where you can use one of these two-headed coins to redeem an old school gumball style like prize. And some of it was on-chain art, some of it was little physical stuff. It was just a really cool activation. And I remember we took a selfie. You did the poncho selfie. That was fun. I really enjoyed that time. I was a big fan of Jenkins, the valet. And I used that as an example all the time when Bored Ape was popular, about how you could now do something with what you owned. You could use this intellectual property that had sort of been communitized instead of commoditized to do whatever you wanted with. And I think there have been ups and downs for it, but you mentioned the mural there in Brooklyn. You talk about the people who still gather around this community. Like, I think that there have been several really successful businesses, brands launched, and I don't know that it's the model that will stand the test of time forever, but it doesn't have to. I think it's really important that people see different models for storytelling, for community building, for identity that's possible with ownership as a medium. So very cool.
Yeah, and that was the whole thing, is like getting my work, my paintings online, figuring out ways to like track the provenance, like the permanent works like the one behind me here. It's all NFC chip linked to a digital provenance, like to a digital twin that represents the ownership, and then they triangulate. And if you buy the token, you essentially own it, but then can exchange it for the physical with a KYC. I've got to, of course, ship it to you and all that stuff. But then, it maintains its provenance through me, the authenticator, the creator of the work, and manage that. So it's kind of a system I created because there was always a need to vault artworks with some third party or collectibles of any kind, comic books or whatever. All these platforms popped up, and it was like, well, if I, as a working artist, I can't send my artwork off, to some vault and nobody's ever going to see it in person. It's a live painting. It's got texture, it's got smell, it's got scale, and to sell it from a digital form is okay, but it's like, I think a painting has a different offering. It has all those elements of not limited by a rectangular screen, or like I'm making my shaped pieces like the one behind me because I feel we need to go back into a more organic way of living and get away from the boxes and categorization and like that.
When you have a physical piece of art, there's a literal weight to it, but like there's a weight to it when you're like looking at it. To me, there's more significance for all the things that you mentioned too. I like my little box arts. I have a bunch of NFT arts pieces, and I'll go mint more and more. And then I still have my mutant ape, by the way. I've had it for years and years and years. So technically, I'm a community member, but I haven't done much with the club. But I'm curious, Joe, if there have been any other communities that you've also dived into on the NFT side.
Multiple. Countless. There's a lot of newer ones on Ape Chain because Ape Chain launched, and there's the G's community. There's I've launched a digital collection called Portals on Ape Chain, and then there's the Pancho Poppins bubblegum machine.
Oh yeah,
that I'm part of. So it's many like all those communities kind of overlap and explore. But I'd say the most involved is still Bored Apes and doing my expanding that IP. There's only so much bandwidth in the world, but I try to tap in with different arts spaces as well, and the Arts DAO and things like that, and tap in, and I'm moving in a lot of places right now. It's wild.
Can you talk a little more about what you said a minute ago, Joe, about just the process you've created for pairing your art to a token? And can you assume that we have no experience doing this? We don't know what NFC is. We don't know what NFTs are. You mentioned the problem of like custodying your artwork in a vault so someone can authenticate it. And where we're trying to go with this is like, we do have a lot of people who maybe want to get started, but feel a little intimidated by the tech, or they're not really sure like why that's valuable. So as you unpack it, can you speak to that even just a little more step by step?
Yeah, well, I think during the the bull run last in 2021, there's a platform called Manifold.xyz, and it enabled so many artists to come in and mint digital artworks or whatever to it's as easy as posting to Instagram or anything else. It's like you create a description, you load maybe some tags to it, metadata, and the only hurdle is learning about a MetaMask wallet or managing the crypto itself. But it's so I create a token on Manifold, and then I triangulate it with I use Transient Labs, which later developed this NFC system of digital provenance, where you can add different events online. So this painting was exhibited at this museum or this gallery or event or whatever. This is a process video that I'm adding to it. So you can track all those sort of the history of each artwork on chain, and you pair that provenance with a digital chip, a what is it called? Near field communication, NFC chip, and you attach that to the back of the painting. So anyone that comes to that painting can tap their phone to it, and it leads directly to that digital provenance. In the past, I mentioned the VerisArt, which is a QR code that you would have to scan where all that information is stored. But I just sort of recently did an upgrade. And that's so the provenance is triangulated with the token, and then it's all linked to the physical piece. And so that triangle, I keep it, all the artworks like in my own vault, my climate control storage. And then if someone wants to buy the token, then they can do that, and then we can make the exchange for the physical if they like, or they could take the token and sell it because it actually represents the ownership. And anyone who has that token can then claim the physical at some point, but they have to sacrifice the token to get the physical. So there's no two owners in the world. You can't have two owners.
So that's interesting. You can't. So if I buy your physical painting, I can't also get the token. It's one or the other.
It's one or the other.
Wow. Okay. That's really interesting. I didn't know that. And
then
I
can't own the physical, and you can't own the token because the token represents ownership of the physical.
Nice.
And if you possess the physical, then that's ownership.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, go ahead, Will. You had a question?
No, so I just wanted to make sure I understood this right. So if I have the physical, obviously I own the physical, and you can't own the token, but the token also represents ownership, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you would just have two owners of the art piece?
No, it just goes back to me as a authenticator.
Ah, I see. Okay.
So there would never be two. Like I would just hold the token, or it's still like trudging into waters that are not really completely defined in the crypto space. It's like I've worked heavily on like artist rights and different artist contracts for the the old Rauschenberg artist contract, which famously Rauschenberg punched his one of his collectors when he discovered that he had sold a painting for $5,000 to this collector, and the collector resold it for $80,000. And he's like, I'm doing all the work here. Where's I should be getting a cut. And so it's one of these contracts that it's very difficult unless you're a big name blue chip artist like, Herring, Warhol, all the Basquiat. It's hard to enforce anything because collectors are like, you're just an artist and I'm going to save you from starvation. So why would I pay a royalty and da da da. So it's like when the NFT space and royalty, the idea of royalties came around, for like, it's figuring out how to do that in the physical realm on a more regular basis. And I think, more and more we're going to see digital sales of physical art.
Yeah.
I got you.
I was saying too, in New York, something I think is really interesting, especially for ephemeral or site-specific artists whose work will literally, pass away. That it's really interesting to pair those kind of things with a token to say, which do you own? You might have a patron, Joe, or a sponsor who, if you're going to do an installation, I don't know, at the Yankee Stadium or something, who would fund that and own it, but they probably deserve to have a marker of that ownership that, they'd like it if it wasn't a little receipt they had to keep track of. So those kinds of things I think are going to become increasingly important as people just learn about what the possibility is. And I think make the ephemeral more valuable.
Right. And it's like I started playing with that. Like the idea of having an ephemeral artwork that's got documented, and then you release a token image of it, pick a photograph of it, and that represents the piece. I did that at NFT NYC a few years back, an installation at Javits Center, and then released an open edition after that. So it was just a aerial photo of the 20-foot sand painting or whatever, and it's I think lives on, and so all the different iterations of these ephemeral pieces that I've done and documented for 30 years. I went back and scanned 5,000 slides from the 90s.
Yeah.
Before I ever used digital photography, and to create these books, and the opportunity for these books is like they're all every artwork is done by me, every photograph by me, design of the book by me, 25,000 words is then written by me and then edited with my wife, and then we're putting it in the hands of a book consultant to kind of polish the fonts and the spacing and stuff like that, and doing these pre-sales, and what I'm scheduling in October is a big installation at Grand Central Station, in partnership with Humans of New York, and so I'm hoping to have these books available. So these are available for pre-sale right now. We can raise the money to print them and have them available at Grand Central as the first edition of 1,000 sets of one is installations from 1994 up to like 2009, and the rest is sand paintings from maybe 2006 to the present, after I made the transition and moved to New York. And in total it's about 345 pages, 25,000 words, hundreds of images, and you can get them on my website using a credit card or buy them on Ape. So
I noticed, so I showed it here for people in podcasts, I shared it on the screen so you can see it. You can get these at Joe's site, the Joe Mangrum, if you're interested.com, or blever.xyz. And I've got to confess, I've been, doing tokens and non-fungible tokens and digital art for a minute, but I was not familiar with Blever.
Yeah, Blever is all new since Ape. It started out as Ape only. Now they've expanded it into abstract. It's a layer 2 or layer 3 Ape.
Yeah.
Very low transaction fees, like a penny. But it's base layers ETH, and it it's very fast and usable. Now they've got a tool called Glyph, useglyph.io, and you can sign up with a Twitter account, and it automatically generates a wallet. And I haven't tested it yet, but Blever's integrated with that, so you can purchase an NFT straight from signing up through Twitter. Use Glyph.
Very cool.
And that's like, and there's more things that are coming through the Ape Chain developers and Ape community that are going to be unchained, so you can spend any currency on any chain, and it'll all happen cross-chain. Amazing technology.
What do you think about Ape Chain, Joe? Because I feel like there are people who are bullish on it, but they're kind of a small group. And I honestly feel like it's sort of an insular story. Like, I don't hear much about it except from people who are in the ape community, and they seem kind of divided. Some people are like, oh, this is great. And some people are like, oh, this is so dead.
I think there's a perception in the crypto world that Ape Chain is only for apes. And it's meeting that audience. Like, there's a lot of I don't know. It's like we've gone through this bull run on ETH, and then everybody siloed off into different chains in the last couple of years. And so of course apes are going to be on Ape Chain, but it's like it's the chain that all their friends built, their community built, and wanting to support it. It's very functional, very exciting kind of things happening, but just a small amount of people are paying attention to it. And
because that seems cool. Glyph, for example, or Blever.
Yeah,
like both.
They just Yuga Labs just put that out. It's amazing, and and then the other side is happening very soon. Perpetual other side with bubbles, so you can have a Twitter space live in a bubble with 500 people floating in a 3D world from your browser, everyone with each having their avatar in a digital identity floating over the other side. And then they've been testing this other side metaverse for years, but it's only had club access, and doing capture the flag type games, casino nights, bubbles, different types of activities within the metaverse, which is just operable through a normal Chrome browser and a Yuga ID. And when you sign up with Glyph, you get a Yuga ID with a wallet, so you can just go.
Yes, all that land I bought, I'll finally be able to see one day.
Yeah, exactly.
I remember when the trailer for it dropped, and I was honestly so stoked. I've never been in Ape,
I remember that trailer,
but it was wild.
It was awesome.
I tell on through,
dude, it was so cool. And I still tell people, again, just like I tell people about Jenkins, I say, this is such a great story to be part of. And I never felt excluded from it just because I wasn't in the club, so to speak. I always felt very welcomed to learn about, participate in those kind of spaces. And I get it. I thought it was cool that it was like early access or first access or exclusive access. It gave the token value.
Right.
It did.
Mm-hmm. Joe, I'm curious. As someone who's now spent so much time in the world of NFTs, what do you think? Because Alex, Evan, we all think like what gets the masses on board is NFT technology, but not necessarily through a profile picture, but through like the actual application of the technology itself, and businesses, gaming, there's all the different ways it can revolutionize things, and via artists and artistry and music and all that kind of stuff. But I'm curious because right now, crypto, Web3, it's really, for the most part, being adopted by the world of finance and people who invest, if you look at like who's really adopting the technology first. So I'm curious what you think needs to happen in order for people to start adopting NFT technology and have that adoption of NFT technology kind of start to equal, or at least get close to, that adoption on the financial side.
I think it's generational for one. Older generations are more tactile and they want to have the connection to things like physical art and whatever. But it's also removing all the friction from the process. You know, when we first added credit cards to the internet, people were freaking out. Oh my God! And you know, of course, there's kind of security concerns and stuff, but you really have to have some skills in 2021 to operate a MetaMask and a ledger and easily sign everything. And you know, this, you know, Glyph edition is like as easy as like go in, sign up with your Google account or your Twitter account, and you've automatically got a Web3 wallet, and then you can transact right there and buy NFTs. You can send crypto. You can, you know, it's still in its very early stages, and I haven't fully tested it, but you know, it's those types of things that just make it as easy as, you know, one click on Amazon to buy an NFT or have digital ownership, or you know, and you know, there's companies like Materium, founded by Vinay Gupta, who's you know, one of the people who launched Ethereum, but they're working on the real world assets and, you know, physical artworks, gold, wine, any type of physical assets, real estate, to make those all smart contracts and you know, insurances, international law, all that kind of thing. So it's I worked with him to kind of develop this idea of how I triangulate the artworks. But you know, when they do gold or whatever, it just stays in a vault, and then you have the digital token. But you know, wine, I wouldn't get that out of the vault. I want to drink it.
Sure.
Kind of thing.
Yeah.
But
you know, the provenance on-chain is nice. Schmack was saying in one of our comments that real estate is a natural thing, agreeing with you, real world assets. But we were talking before we got on just how difficult it is for people who are, you know, like work for themselves to get a house, or even, you know, take out a mortgage for any kind of loan, asset, whatever, to verify things, and how hopefully as this is legitimized and people become more familiar with it, it'll start to ease the friction of that kind of experience for people who are digitally native. It'll accelerate the velocity of those things, the way it has accelerated the velocity of money or artist rights or that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And I think we'll, you know, like even Art Basel has created their own they've created their own blockchain to give artist gallerist royalties on sales of artworks and do private sales. It's mostly through private sales, so they keep the pricing secret, which is a very trad art world thing, to keep sale prices and privacy of the collectors, you know, anonymous. But it's called Arcruel. Don't tell me how to spell it. Actual or something like that.
Alex, you've been kind of quiet over there, and I know that means you're probably engaging with a lot of folks in the comments. So I'm curious to know what's surfacing for you. And as we, you know, prepare to send go off and do final thoughts with him and transition, what you're thinking about, what questions you have.
The biggest question we talked about quite a bit, which was just, you know, different platforms that people can use to kind of get into this whole thing for themselves. I had a question come in that was just about somebody who is creating art that they've heard me say before, you can use an NFT to secure it. You know, the NFT's existence doesn't necessarily mean that the art is valuable, but it does mean that it's safer, and, you know, then it's on the artist for the rest of it. So I think we covered that pretty well. There's a whole bunch of different resources. So Joe, I didn't know if there was any that you didn't mention that would be, you know, top of mind if you were recommending to somebody who either is a new or established artist who wants to learn how to secure any of the stuff that they've done on chain, where you would recommend they go. I guess maybe for like the easiest onboard, even just to get used to the process, like you mentioned, you know, the process of minting something for the first time. You know, if there's any that you have not gone over yet today.
You know, I'm still a, you know, big believer in ETH, and I think Manifold.xyz is the easiest, least expensive way to mint artworks and have an interface and a user experience for artists coming out, just trying things new, and that will give you the launch pad. And unfortunately, like it's still subject to a gas fee with Ethereum, which is a little higher than Ape Chain or Abstract or any of the others, but there's some real user tools. And it's like we got to remember all this stuff is built by people, and there's an idea, and then it continues to build upon, and things get easier and easier, and then all of a sudden it's going to be functioning without even our knowledge of it. It's like we can now tap our phone and use Apple Pay. Well, we're going to be able to do that with NFTs very soon. And everybody, before COVID, everybody was like, "What's a QR code?" And now it's part of everybody's daily life. And so I think onboarding into crypto is going to be as easy as putting a QR code. People, boom, boom, hit the Apple Pay, and it's converted from fiat into whatever choice of crypto the platform is, and all those rails will disappear, and it'll just be like transacting like where everything is normalized. I think that's the most important thing. It's like when your grandma can do it, it's pretty good.
And I would say for folks who want to use Manifold, you might want to Google. There are a couple of tutorials on YouTube, and we can try to find one to link in the comments, because you'll need to create a wallet. You'll need to do a couple of things for the first time. I don't know if you ever did a tutorial, Joe.
And I like Glyph, I think, is also a good thing too. Like I said, I haven't fully tested it because it's like last week they launched this integration with Blever, and I'm not sure if it's fully just Ape Chain or I haven't pushed all the buttons yet with all the holiday and everything. So Glyph is super easy to sign up for, and you can transact immediately. Manifold is still got those old school steps that are a little more friction, but as far as the interface to like mint an NFT, it's pretty good, and they've got a lot of documentation. It makes it pretty easy if you just sit down and take an hour to read it.
I'd say honestly, even the process of creating either a single or a series inside of the Coinbase Smart Wallet is actually not that bad. It's a little clunky. I think I messed with it once a little while ago. I think right after they released the Smart Wallet, and I was like, okay, like I could see, I could figure it out relatively easily. I'm sure that it would still cause some friction, but I would say that in the term or in the sense of people just being able to like open up something and mint something. First of all, I feel like honestly a few steps are okay. Like it's okay if that process has a little bit of friction.
Yeah, and there's so many options out there, really, and all these new chains. So I don't want to overwhelm people with it. It's a lot to wrap your head around.
No, for sure. I think the other comment that had surfaced a few times was just sort of about the I don't know what the word I want here is, the adoption of all this kind of stuff, the growth of this part of the industry, the fact that we rocketed the way that we did in 2021 and then into 22, and then now it is where it is. I think it's interesting and telling that there's still so much activity, even if it is just worth less money than it was then, because that initial like gambling hype run kind of ran its course. And I kind of feel like it's one of those misconceptions about crypto and Web3 in general that just needs to die. That like something in order to be deemed successful has to be worth billions of dollars, when like whatever piece of the traditional industry is now being tokenized and put on chain is never worth even a tenth of that. Like why suddenly it would be doing that much volume, in general. And I just feel like art is such a perfect example of that, where of course there's, like you mentioned, there's these private art auctions and there's these ritzy galleries and there's the, trad art collection world. But then
It's
there's
happening
also just
in the background.
bajillions.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. But even then outside of it, there's the world of art where it's just people making stuff that is important to them for X, Y, and Z reasons. And here's another tool that you can use to like secure it more. I think it's just a matter of like the number of people who are aware that it exists. It either matters to you or it doesn't.
Right. I think, provenance when it comes to artwork, especially after an artist is passed, is very important. If an artist is alive, you can say, "Hey, Banksy, is this real?" And they'll be like, "Yeah." Pest control goes after it, says, "Yes, this is fake. This is real." But once an artist is passed, having that trail of provenance on chain that's immutable is going to be invaluable. I saw an example the other day where it's like, this mention of an artwork in a catalog from the 20s or 30s or something, like increased the value of the artwork because all of a sudden it had real world provenance because had been published in a catalog. So like all those types of things matter in terms of determining values into perpetuity. It's like future proofing of the art. And it's a great irony too, to me, is like I make ephemeral art and it's about experience and all that. And I think that's also what's so interesting, is that I'm recording all the provenance of it in a way. It's like I'm caught in between two worlds of, this is real, this is recorded, this is what happened, but it's also like, who cares?
Yeah.
It blows away. It's swept away each night. It's gone. It's about this moment as much as the thought of it carrying forward. But in some ways it's kind of ridiculous to me. But it's I understand. It's the ways of the world that monetize everything, and for better or worse. I'm here for the journey. It's like I can keep a sense of humor about it, and as an artist, people are going to interpret it either way. It's like if people are going to pour all their opinions on me, and be like, here we are.
Sure.
It's it's a lot of fun.
Joe, we want to get a final thought from you in a second. So if you've got a last minute question, a suggestion, a good joke, or word of wisdom for Joe, before we send him off on his dog and pony into the sunset for now, then let us know. I do want to remind you that the best ways to follow up, to get in touch with his work, are of course at Linktree/Joe Mangrum, where you can find the links to his website, joemangrum.com. You can find the Blever page. You can find his X there. And I want to encourage you again to support this artist if you feel so inclined by checking out his book. You can pre-order this book. And when we were talking about it in New York, it sounded like the most meaningful thing we could do to help Joe was to amplify his work in order to help him put this book out into the world, so that at Grand Central Station, he can have a bunch of these books for people to just buy right up and give them another touch point with his artwork. I think it's so important to have both stories that we can experience and remember, and stories that will last in a physical form. And I just love your story, Joe, and I'm grateful you made so much time to share it with us. So if you've got a final ask for our audience, let us know. If there's something else we can do to support you, or if there's a final thought you want to leave us with, man, the floor is yours.
Yeah, it's like I've shown my work all around the world, but like this is an epic kind of space in New York City. It's within Grand Central's Vanderbilt Hall. It's a massive space, and doing a collaboration with Brandon Stanton, who's the creator of Humans of New York. It's a New York Times best-selling book. I'm actually in Brandon's first book. My hands, covered in sand, are on the cover of the book and within its pages. And then if you go through the blog, he's photographed dogs in front of my work. He's photographed all kinds of people with the the focal point being on the person, but you see these abstract colors in the background. It's like he would walk through Union Square, Washington Square Park, and then stop and photograph someone that he felt of interest and interview them, and created this blog. I've known Brandon since he had 500 followers, and then I don't know, he's over 20 million now. But he had, gone around the world with the UN and photographed humans of the world in Pakistan and, all over everywhere. Expanded that whole thing. And then there's a Facebook series, Humans in New York, in which I appear in the first episode. At the very end, there's like a little 2 minutes of the 22-minute episode. And, it like had this relationship with Brandon for a long time, and he's planning this big thing in October, and I'm excited to be a part of it. We're just trying to, converge and get this book out there. I need to sell like 300 copies of it in order to pay for the cost of printing 1,000 copies of each of the books, and then we'll have a first edition that's of 1,000. I'll sign them all. We'll put the NFC tags in them, document them all, and ship them out, when the time comes. But also create a sizzle reel to like show the printing process and all that with another amazing woman, Vanessa Gould, who has some award-winning films, Obit, which is about the obituary writers of the New York Times, and Between the Folds, about origami artists.
Yeah, I've seen that one.
Yeah, so she's the creator of that film, and one of the origami artists had passed away, so she wrote all these letters to try to get an obituary written. The New York Times was the only one that responded, so that brought her into the process of how they write these obituaries, which is a fascinating film. It's debuted right after David Bowie and Michael Jackson had died, so she kind of includes them, but the movie is all about the process and of how these obituaries are written. That was kind of a morbid note, but it's
interesting.
Yeah, it's very fascinating. If you see the film, it just goes into this, like how everything's pre-written, and they've got this 90-year-old guy that's like still got a file, and everybody's got a story, and it's all in the basement of the New York Times, apparently.
Yeah. Maybe they'll have a file for us.
I don't know.
Well, Joe, thank you very much for making time to appear on the show. When is the Grand Central installation? When is that?
Early part of October. It hasn't been fully nailed down yet. I'm keeping my fingers crossed that it's all moving forward. It's looking very positive, but there's a lot of red tape to go through to get this thing pulled together. Looking forward to it, and it's one of those spaces that I've dreamt about. Like, another one is the Oculus down in World Trade Center. Just take that white floor and fill it with sand. Yeah. Give me a month. It'd be amazing. But it takes a lot to pull that stuff off. I've done things in the parks and everything for years, and I am available worldwide for commissions. People fly me to all over Dubai, Germany, Netherlands, China, to do installations in sand. Ephemeral experience that can last months. The museum in the Netherlands put stanchions around the work, kept it for 10 months. So you get a lot of bang for your buck, so to speak. And and then I have my permanent works for sale as well. So.
Well, Joe, thank you for making so much time to tell us about it. We're going to check in with you again for sure ahead of the installation, and we will have all the links to all your work below. I'll be in touch with you afterwards so that you can share the episode, and if there's more we can do to support you, don't hesitate to let us know. But for now, we say farewell, and thank you again for joining us on the Rise Up Morning Show.
Yeah. Thank you, Evan, Alex, William.
See you, Joe. It was nice chatting with you, man. Nice getting to know you.
Take care.
You too.
Ladies and gentlemen, monsters and machines, people and creatures of all ages, we have still got a little Rise Up morning show left in the tank, and we know that you have got a bunch of good crypto questions. Alex, I have seen you work in the chat. Will, I know you've got a little bit of a tariff update for us, and you wore the suit to match. Cosmic Crypto was saying in the comments about your suit. He said, Will looks like, what did he say? He's about to fly away, something on business. The point is, you're making us look bad, man.
I mean,
you are doing that suit a favor.
It's my logo. You know, it's we're fitting the brand, and
it's the brand.
I do actually have another update. The folks at TikTok support once again have found another 2 videos that are permanently causing my original TikTok to be stuck. So hopefully that gets fixed. I doubt it. Until then, I am Suits and Satoshis, and I'll be wearing a suit. So, sorry guys. I'm just gonna continuously get comments from my mom. For those of you who don't know, we interviewed SEC Commissioner Hester Peirce, like, God, it feels like years ago now. It was probably like 9 months ago.
See if I can get the picture.
And there's a picture, and my mom's all happy and proud because she's like, oh my God, this internet thing. This is a perfect impersonation of my mother, and she's probably watching this. She's like, hey, it's a perfect impersonation. This internet thing's really going well. You're doing stuff well. I'm like, yeah, sure is, Mom. She's like, I just really wish Alex and Evan would like put in a little bit of effort. Just like a little bit. My mom sounds exactly like that, I promise. She doesn't. But she was just like, yeah, you look so nice. And Evan and Alex just, that was it. That was the exact, it was, you look so nice. And Evan and Alex, That's
okay. Kimberly said, you guys look like Will's interns.
Yeah. It's a great picture.
It takes a lot of work, I want everyone to know, to look this carefree.
But I do have an update with tariffs if you want to jump to that.
Give it to us. Cosmic, I found his comment. He said, someone tell Will this is a crypto show, not a central bank press conference. But we really do want the update.
Hey, if you've been to the crypto conferences, the suits are coming, baby. And all the people who aren't wearing up will be replaced. I'm sorry to tell you, but the old Wild West days are done. The banks are here, everybody. Business. Okay. Yeah. So let's see. I took some notes here just to make sure I had all the trade deals right. Okay, I got them. So the tariffs that were going to be set for July 9th, because there was a delay from the big gigantic tariffs when Trump had the cutout posters that had the massive tariffs across the board for all the countries. Those got delayed. We're going to go live on July 9th. But yesterday, Scott Bessent, who is the Treasury Secretary of the United States, announced that there will be a further grace period extended to August 1st.
How nice.
So we don't have to worry about those tariffs going live on July 9th. The tariffs will go live on August 1st. The reason for this being is to allow for more negotiations with countries who are close to deals. That is the reasoning. Where we're at with some of our biggest trading partners. So biggest trading partners for the US, Mexico, Canada, China, and then a slew of other countries that obviously come in fourth and afterwards, is Mexico. They're trying to negotiate tariffs, particularly with Mexican steel. Mexico would really like exemptions from that. That's the biggest sticking point there. We don't have any idea on how close they are, though, but they're closer than others. Canada, they're trying to get a deal set. Right now, the target is July 21st. Canada dropped their digital services tax, which was going to be targeted at U.S. tech giants. But Canada is being very defensive of their dairy and aluminum industry, which makes sense. They're big exporters. And then China, we have like a truce deal with them right now. There's still negotiations there. We don't have much details out of that. What we do have some details out of is trade negotiations are apparently very close with India. We could have news on a trade deal with India this week or next week. The European Union, we've gotten word that a framework is being set in place for their tariffs. We don't know what that necessarily means, but it seems like there's some progress. Japan, however, very little progress at all. The relationships right now are very strained because Japan is incredibly defensive of their domestic rice industry because they should. And the United States wants them to drop their tariffs on U.S. rice when their tariffs are like 150 or 200%. But Japan's trying to protect their rice industry, which is very big. And with the United Kingdom and Vietnam, we have trade deals already set in place. And for those of you who don't know, Vietnam is the United States' 8th largest trading partner. So it's a small nation, but it's a very big trading partner. So that's where we're at right now. Keep your eyes open for trade deals as we go through this week and the next couple of weeks, as they could shape the market. Any good, air quote, good or better trade deal that we get could be a boon to markets. We'll see. That's what I got.
Beautiful. And if you want to hear more macro market updates, then really the place you need to go is Rise Up Macro Market. We're going to have a whole stream. It's a whole new show, people. 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. Will and Doug, aka Von, are going to be live everywhere you like to watch the show to help you become more macro acumen. I don't know what to say. I still don't have a good pitch for the show. I crafted one up the other day, but I'm really kind of leaving it to you, man. What would you say?
I would say, come watch me. I'm handsome. No, I would say just like, Doug and I, we really like to dive into charts and all that. And so, if you are either a beginner or, maybe you don't have as much, like we all don't have the bandwidth to keep our eyes on all markets, right? So hop on in for an hour of us talking about kind of like the fundamental macro things that are shaping the market, as well as opening up a few charts. We'll try to find some areas of support, some targets if we think things are going to break out. Also, we'll talk about the relationship between the dollar, gold, how that's going to affect crypto, specifically altcoins, trends in the altcoin space that we think are hot or not, what meme coins Doug's looking at that are leading the market, that he's finding some interesting trends, because Doug's always looking at some interesting stuff that I'm not. And then also, we take a whole bunch of feedback and questions from people in the audience, and you direct us towards some things to take a look at, and you can educate us while we educate you. And at the end of the hour, we're all more informed for our trading choices and investment choices going into the week. So that's it. And also, there's a new name. We're just going to go with Market Watch. We're going to go the Rise Up Market Watch, because it just, macro market, we wanted the phoneticism of the double M, but Market Watch, it's what the show is. We're watching the market, right? Setting ourselves up for the week of trading, but that's it.
Beautiful. Practical insights on macro trends, baby.
Yep. Also, I saw that comment from Keith. I don't know if you guys are also aware, but the rumor right now is that Oracle will buy TikTok.
Oh, gosh.
And we will be on a US TikTok app.
Yes,
which is what was probably going to happen anyway. That's been the leading conspiracy, if you will.
See, okay, this is why I think all of this is bullshit, because Oracle already custodies all of like TikTok's American
all the data,
and they have for years. It's not like they did it last week. It's like there was legislation about this literally years ago. See, I wish in podcast land the whole time Will was talking about trade deals and I was rolling my eyes, and I wish I could have rolled them harder, but they would have left my skull if I did. This is all bullshit, dude. Every single piece of this is literally bullshit. Like the tariff thing, it's like, let's make some arbitrary threat and then hold a hammer and an anvil over the head of every other country and then pretend to negotiate in good faith. It's bullshit. There's this White House insider report now that all of it actually is indeed all bullshit, and there's barely any real talks happening anywhere, which honestly checks out, because I never see a single piece of news in any other publication anywhere around the world that would indicate that any serious conversations are happening. And I've never seen the people in charge of all of this string two coherent sentences together to suggest that they are even aware of how to restructure global trade. Meanwhile, you have this TikTok ban, which the current administration is literally the one that put in place years ago. Let's not forget, the only reason any of this was even a thing is because he got punked on TikTok and got really pissy about it and threatened to ban it, whatever, in the first term. And now here we are. And it's just like every day, it's like some other bullshit. Like, I'm so tired. So what is this? This is like TikTok is making a new app with some other name that is going to get relaunched in the United States, and we're all going to like recreate accounts over there. Yeah, I'm sure that's not going to get banned, because the exact same problem is going to pop up over there for these people. Like, we're hiding behind this fake data bullshit, which is all in Texas, owned by Oracle anyway. This is so exhausting. The global trade, yeah, I'm sure that we're super close. we're so close to all these deals that were started with like a massive contextless threat to all of these other countries. They're super motivated, I'm sure, to like sit down and have great conversations. Meanwhile, we've spent a third of this like time golfing anyway. When the fuck are all of these happening? With like a guy who barely even knows what his job description is. This is so stupid. What do we? It's bullshit. It's all
Alex,
bullshit.
why don't you tell us how you really feel?
It's just
No,
Tori
this is how I
says in the
feel.
comment over here. She says, I wish I could turn up Alex 2 notches.
Your wish is my command. It's all
turned up.
bullshit.
I mean, I'd say it's not bullshit. I mean, like going from a free trade scenario, which I'm more of a fan of, where tariffs are low across the board, to an incredibly strict tariff environment is not one that I'm a fan of economically. But if your goal is, I want a weaker dollar and I want to boost manufacturing, it's a really great, it's a great strategy. And that's what Trump campaigned on. And that's what he's doing. So like, that's how you do it. If that's your goal, because you set up these crazy tariffs, right? So everyone's forced to come to the table because you are the largest market in the world. So everyone's got to talk to you. And we do have proof of the UK and Vietnam agreeing to trade deals. Now, you don't have to like those trade deals because it is good, and there are good and bad sides. Like the Vietnam trade deal is 0% tariffs against US goods coming into Vietnam and 20% or 40% tariffs of goods coming from Vietnam into the US. So why is that bad? US businesses pay that. Taxes on US businesses increase, cost to its consumer gets pushed, right? So it's not good for the US consumer. But if your goal is, I want to boost US manufacturing, it's a really good deal.
Okay.
Because your goods are now at a 0% tariff in Vietnam. Your goods are now competitive. Now, what goods are really going to get boosted there? You have to take a look at like what things we actually do business with in Vietnam. Those would be the sectors that would get boosted. And the one thing that was really weird is Trump then did say he's like, and people are going to buy like the large motor vehicles in Vietnam now. And he attached it to that. And I was like, our cars can't fit on Vietnamese streets. So like that's not going to work. But if you're trying to boost manufacturing, those are the deals that you're trying to strike.
But here's my problem, Will. That very admission is just further indication to me that it's all bullshit. Because like, yeah, they're going to start buying fucking Suburbans in Vietnam. Brilliant. Said the guy who's never been to Vietnam or seen a single picture of it, apparently. Like, what a stupid thing it just doesn't make any sense. Not to mention the fact that the entire premise of this whole conversation is misguided. You can't just change the cost of 3 things and then boost American manufacturing overnight. We're not set up to do this at all. Like, okay, let's wave a magic wand and let's say that everyone in the world is suddenly like, okay, you know what? You're right. We're going to start buying fine electronics manufactured in America. Which factories will begin producing? Oh, there are none? Cool. Okay, let's build them. Where will we put them and how many people will we get to work with them? Oh, you don't have enough people who will take those jobs to like run all of those plants? Okay, no, don't worry. We'll start shipping in Oh, wait, we can't send any people. You're not welcome. People can't immigrate to the country. Okay, never mind. Next idea. It's all bullshit, dude. Like it doesn't work. It's not possible. Look at this, the cell phone. As if we're gonna like suddenly start manufacturing a cell phone in this country. Where? With who? With what materials? That's my problem. It's the fact that we're not even thinking about like what makes sense to build here or why things were not built. This whole thing basically suggests that like the reason that fine electronics and all these other majillion different things are not manufactured in the States is because a few bad trade deals happened like in the last how many years? Like it's like it's bullshit. I fully reject the premise of all of this. And it's not that I don't want things to be more affordable for people, but like we all know from decades and decades and generations of experience, once the cost of something goes up, especially an item of necessity, why the fuck would it ever go down? We all keep buying it. Why would grocery prices ever actually fall if we have to keep buying food? Why would electronics ever fall if we all need a cell phone to live at this point? Why would cars ever actually, it just doesn't make any sense. if you just think about it logically, which is why I think like it's so hard to look at the markets globally right now, because like, what am I even looking at? Like a bunch of people who are lying to me about like what they actually want so that some backroom deal can happen to make someone more insider trading rich. It's exhausting. I can't even begin to fathom how this makes any sense to anybody.
I will absolutely die on this.
Well, you're not wrong. But I also think that what I'm saying is not right. I think it's like last week when we were like, two things can be true.
Yes.
Where there is also there's a scenario where you are not going to build the infrastructure for manufacturing. Now, granted, if you make phones in the United States, they're going to be so expensive because we pay our wages are expensive, right? The phone's going to be so expensive that people buying phones made in the US are going to be ridiculous.
How many years away from being able to produce one are we?
I have no idea. But if you're going to expand manufacturing in the United States, like you're going to build a factory from start, it's a minimum of 4 years. It's a minimum. It's a minimum of 4 years if you're going to build a new manufacturing facility. But at the same time, you're not going to have the manufacturing capacity. And I understand you don't want to make everything in the United States because then the products become so expensive that no one buys them. And then there's going to be some other competitive solution out there that's going to beat you. But for the things that do make sense to make in the United States, you're not going to have all of a sudden the manufacturing capacity for it to meet an increased demand because of tariffs making it more expensive or less expensive or what have you, right? You're going to wait for demand to be at a point where it's above your ability to manufacture, and then you bring the manufacturing up because building that manufacturing is so expensive. So you need the demand to rise first to your first point. Or counter to your first point. But both things are true. Is this all a whole bunch of bullshit? Yes. Is this, in my personal opinion, a huge scheme to just weaken the dollar, decrease bond rates, and also find a new way for the government to increase tax revenue while lying to the people and telling them that other countries are going to pay for them? Yes. But it's the world we're living in right now. And if you're a trader and investor, if you're a trader and investor, you have to figure out just where those rules are and understand how to play with those rules to put yourself and your family in the best position possible. And that's just what you have to do.
I think that's why having conversations like this and then starting the Market Watch show is worthwhile, because it's worth drilling into the point you just made, which is that this is all complete and utter nonsense. But we also now have, I don't know how many months it's been. It feels like 45 years, but however long ago January was, where we just have what is probably all bullshit completely driving essentially the world economy. And so like, it would be ridiculous to sit here and say like none of it matters. That's not what I mean. I just mean that it's all built on lies. And built on ridiculousness. Like, it doesn't make any sense, for example, that Bitcoin crashes when someone erroneously, emptily threatens a country that we do like barely any trade with I mean, we put penguin tariffs and Bitcoin crashes, like then it's bullshit, right? So I think that's kind of my issue with it, but it's worth looking at and figuring out like what story is being told, and then how to like, I don't know, is expose the right word? How to expose the thinking of it. What drives all of these prices up and down. But I mean, it seems like a trader's paradise because it's just like up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. It's like over and over and over again. It's like, hey, let's lie about this. Let's erroneously threaten this. Let's start another war over here. Oh wait, no, that war's over. Let's do a different one. It's it's just like, it's whiplash. It's exhausting, but the markets do be volatile. So
we got a lot of good reactions in the comments, a lot of thoughts, including Alex preach. Alex put the fries in the bag. Will talking sense. But I also know we have a couple of other questions that you wanted to get to. Are we okay to transition to talk about one or two of these other topics that you mentioned in the back room?
Yeah, sure. Go for it.
If you want more of this, come back, because Alex, he heats up. He's like a microwave, man. You turn him on and he gets going, and then
don't come for me.
I know you wanted to talk about this old Bitcoin wallet that came online. Can I read people into the situation really quick? If you missed it, over the weekend or some point last week, a long dormant Bitcoin wallet, untouched since 2011, moved 10,000 Bitcoin. And there are two of these wallets that did this, 10,000 each, a total of 20,000 Bitcoin worth billions of dollars. And they have transferred it to a new wallet. They've come online, they've transferred it.
80,000 Bitcoin total.
80,000? Oh, see, I saw the 10,000. I saw
only a couple.
And they did this without a test transaction. They just straight up sent 10,000 Bitcoin to a whole new wallet. I was like, oh my, it gave me so much anxiety to see somebody did that. Can you imagine? What do you think happened there? You think somebody just forgot about it and found it? Because surely nobody would have held that long.
I mean, I think you have some options, right? Like, and it's, I mean, all we can really do at this point is speculate, because it's worth noting that there is no specific on-chain evidence of any one in particular. I know, so there's a theory kicking around that it's Roger Ver, who, for anyone curious, is,
Bitcoin OG, yeah.
Bitcoin Jesus, yeah. It's Roger, right? Is Roger his first name?
I thought so, yeah. I think so.
For some reason, as soon as I said it, I was like, wait a second, did I just say is it different? Anyway, whatever.
Yeah,
Roger. Okay.
He's an old time Bitcoin bull.
But then, there's also this other idea that, like, hey, some of the people who had that much in one place that wouldn't have touched it in so long could have been doing something illicit with it back in the day and could have just gotten out of prison. There's always like that potential. Who knows? Then also we have old Ross is free now. That dude probably had a buttload all over the place. We know that some moved as soon as he got out. So, he started with, because there's wallets that are known to be associated with him, but he could very well have others. There could also be, original founding members that are looking to, like, hey, for maybe one, because one, and these are all conspiracy theories, right? This is all conjecture, but if you think about, okay, look at the state of things now. What was Bitcoin built for? By whom? And there's some very specific set of principles that, we've all been familiar with about this, stick it to the man, opt out, this alternate system, this peer-to-peer idea. And now what is it? Like Will said, it's just like a bunch of banks and politicians insider trading to manipulate the price of Bitcoin to make themselves rich and swindle people into selling theirs because they're scared to steal it away from them and centralize the holding of all of it in like 6 companies, which is extremely anti-Bitcoin. If I was one of those like ancient original Bitcoin holders that was for the longest time just keeping it there to protect the sanctity of the network, I can tell you personally, I would be extremely tempted to like try to shake the boat and rock the foundations that these traditional institutions are getting in to start hoarding all of this kind of stuff. And if I had tens of thousands of it, I would be scheming and planning on a regular basis, like, how am I going to distribute this in some sort of decentralized
Would you really, though? Would you really? You wouldn't be like,
yeah, because
naked on a beach somewhere?
Yeah, I would have enough to be. I would be doing it from a beach. I would, but if I don't need billions of dollars to go to a beach.
I like you said that I would be doing it from a beach, like angry. Like, how dare you think that I wouldn't be on the beach doing it?
No, I'm not. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you. But
I'm not
picturing you on like a lawn chair, naked from the waist up, and you're just like typing on your laptop, and you're like looking at Christina, like, can you believe these people?
No, that's exactly what it would be. I'd be complaining to Christina about how terrible this is. Yes, while I was sufficiently hydrated with something super fruity, sitting on a beach, and then would be going to a different beach after that. But still answering people in the comments like these. Yeah, no, 100%. But I would also be scheming on like, how do I shake these people that are that are hurting what was built originally, because ultimately that's what's happening. You think Satoshi wanted Michael Saylor when he built this? Probably not. So like, if that was just happening worse and worse and worse, and now you have like this entire industry being propped up by the most antithetical body that has ever existed in tandem with Web3 as an industry, holding it up as its little golden child. You have like authoritarianism holding up decentralization as if it's good, and selling, like, that's so twisted it doesn't even compute.
You know what's beautiful about it, though? The way I look at it differently. I look at the hand of aristocracy grabbing in like financial economic power. Basically, it's just Larry Fink grabbing big. It's just Larry Fink, but like
And it
like
could
coming
be.
out of the water like the Jaws shirt with like the woman
Yep.
swimming on top, but it's just like Larry Fink's face, like oh.
Yep.
Except as that hand goes and grabs the decentralized world, it can't entirely crush it. It can't. It's impossible. Like there will always be the core of decentralization that will always be there, accessible and available to the people, and have things built by the people for the people, away from those hands. So that's the beautiful thing, is that the powers that be will always grab the things that they believe will make them more powerful. And they can use this to make them more powerful, absolutely. But they can't entirely make it their own, which is probably the only thing other than air that they can't entirely control and monopolize. And that's the beautiful thing about blockchain technology.
It is beautiful.
That's the beautiful thing.
You know what? I think that it's also possible that it's a combination of, just like you just said, Will, two things can be true at once. It's like an interesting battle between those two powers. And I think Evan, you're right, that one wallet was 10,000, but like total in like what was dormant and has woken up is over 80,000 in the last little bit. And it'll be interesting to see what ends up happening with it, or if like more specific on-chain evidence materializes, like does it move more, or was it just like a little move to like get everyone to pay attention, and now it's just going to sit there for a while everyone's like, hammer going to drop. Now what? What next? And it just sits there dormant for 10 more years. You know what I mean? Like, could be anything. It could transfer to Coinbase tomorrow. It could sit where it is now for the next 10 years.
Yeah.
Or anything in between.
I don't know. It's interesting. It's tough to say. I like all the theories, and when it happens, we'll certainly tell you about it. Now, we did have one other thing that you messaged me about in the chat. You said specifically that you are interested in talking about. Usually, I'm so much more prepared with your side comments. What was the last thing? The White House insider leak.
Yeah, I was just curious if more, because, for the record, I will say freely, this could also be bullshit, right? Like what gets immediate publicity? Talking shit about the current administration. So it's very within the realm of possibility that someone with no insider information whatsoever anonymously leaked a story, and because the news media ecosystem is what it is, they were just like, oh, this is going to print, and then they just take it and run with it. Like, I totally believe that could be the case. But I try to be rational and objective, and it makes a lot of sense because, like I said, nothing that we're pretending we're working towards makes any sense or could ever realistically materialize, i.e. recreating the Industrial Revolution today in the United States, and all of a sudden manufacturing all of these things we're not set up to manufacture in a year or two. Like, it's just silly. Everything takes longer than you think, right? Like, even the president receiving that big-ass plane, just that would take 4 years, okay? Optimistically, just to get it and make it safe to use, right? So, like, this just makes even less sense. So in that sense, I'm like, okay, this insider thing tracks. Like, logically, that makes sense, but also it could be nonsense. And I was just kind of curious, Will, if you had followed, if you'd seen that report, or if there was any more to it, because I did not like sit there and try to dig that far.
I have no idea what we're talking about.
Oh, interesting. Okay, well, I'll send you the thing. Like I said, I don't think there's really enough to make it seem like super concrete, and every day there's more.
Wait, what's the general gist? I know that there's a leak from the White House that's maybe real, maybe not, but like, what's the gist of this leak?
So the gist is that a White House insider, allegedly, and again, this is where cause for speculation, has basically just revealed that all of the tariff stuff is nonsense, and that there's no real substantive talks or meaning behind any of these deadlines that just keep kind of getting kicked down the road, that they're just sort of made up and they were not thought out, and there's not. So the gist is in these 4 basic points. There are no real deadlines. They are completely self-imposed and mean nothing, which is why they can just keep getting at the...
That's in, of course.
Yeah, but I just mean, that like no other country is involved in agreeing to any of these deadlines. We just sort of like set this arbitrary date that was not founded in any sort of like logic. Like,
Well-
okay, well, it takes this long to talk about this, and then just switch this and rewrite this and do whatever. It's just like, pick a day.
Yeah, I mean that's just a negotiating tactic.
Sure, yeah.
I do that frequently.
No, absolutely, absolutely. Like a threat is totally a valid negotiating tool. Whether you think it's effective or whatever is a different conversation. Then the purpose is that there's no desire to genuinely create a better situation economically for anybody. It's all a power play. It's just power versus power. It's all theatrics and political theater. And then no real progress. There's a few small deals. Most of the talks have stalled because both sides are completely unwilling to be any kind of reasonable with each other. There's our threats, which are just outlandish and insane, tariffs on penguins. And then there's the other countries who are like, I'm not going to come sit down with you until you present something reasonable, which I don't know enough about international trade to know how out of pocket that is. But I don't see a lot of reasonableness from anybody. And then it's all really just market manipulation and public drama theater, and we're just kind of trying to exhaust people, and that's sort of the point. And it was basically just
that last part definitely true, but to the other things too, the other two comments. One is there's no thought towards the economic plan, whether there's thought or not, I don't know, but there's economic impact for sure.
Oh, absolutely.
By doing this,
yes.
Right? Whether there's thought or not, you can't possibly measure unless you're in the room with them themselves, right?
Totally.
But trying to increase demand for manufacturing products in the United States probably hurt consumers, will help manufacturing. Whether or not that creates a certain amount of jobs in the blue collar sense, I don't know, because AI and robots, right? I'm sure there'll be some jobs added, but who knows? We'll figure that out. But there'll obviously be economic impact. There'll be a new, slightly different economic order to things. And then what was the thing, the second to last thing you said?
That most of these talks have stalled, and there's a few little things that have squeaked out, but they're not really.
Yeah, that is all right, so what are we talking about with most of these talks of stall? Because most of the countries you'd have trade deals aren't significant trading partners in any way, shape, or form. So if you say most, a trade deal with I don't know, Guam, or some country that isn't Guam, a country that isn't a big trading partner. Those would stall because they're not a high priority. So you only have so much bandwidth. So you're going to direct them towards your China's, your Mexico's, your Canada's, your India's, your European Union, so on and so forth down the list. And we do have trade deals with the United Kingdom that happened quickly, with Vietnam that happened not quickly, but happened recently. And so we have some evidence of trade deals having progressed. So there are conversations going, and it's probably just with the biggest players in the space, and the Guams of the world are, being pushed to the side because in the world of prioritization, no one cares except for people in Guam.
Yeah, I think what I took this accusation to be more was just
there's not a lot of strategy.
Yeah, just that, it's sort of, we sent out a whole bunch of take it or leave it letters, and none of them were taken seriously. And we were not in a position to actually enforce the threats that we made because they were empty. And so there's no reason for talks to progress until both sides are willing to be more reasonable, because we are a purchasing, and you talk about this all the time, way more about this than I do, so correct me if I'm wrong, but we are a consumer economy. We don't produce as much, we buy more than we produce, which is
I do want to just be careful. We do produce a lot. It's just we consume way more.
That's what I meant. Not that we don't make anything, but that we make less than we. So that and what was held up as the evidence to say that these tariffs are necessary is the fact that we exist in a trade deficit with most countries around the world, which is exactly that was not groundbreaking, earth-shattering news. Everybody knew that. So I think that's what I took it to mean. It was we made a bunch of threats that there's no way we could carry out. If someone was fine, go for it. The bluff was called in a lot of these instances. There was no baked out plan with, okay, well, what about? It was just my way or the highway. And then they said, I'll take the highway. And we were like, wait, shit, that was an option? oh, and now it's just sort of like crickets. And there's a few little ones who did some stuff, wanted to make some headlines or did whatever, and the rest of it was posturing and bluster. That's what I took it to mean.
Okay. I see what you're saying. I would also just say, I would caution like everybody, almost like in the same sense.
Taking you out of here.
Oh, we got to go. All right, fine. This will be the last thing.
Give me your last thought. That's our dogs and ponies telling
our dogs and ponies are trying to get
Evan
out of
just
here.
left.
Yeah, Evan's gone. Just his screen just goes black. It's like, ooh, wait a second.
If we stay on much longer, Guam's going to take it personally and think
Guam's going to take it so personally.
Give us your last thought on this, and then we'll go into a final thought segment.
Yeah, all I would say is just like we're all crypto investors, right? And 1 month can feel like a year in real time, but ultimately the crypto industry moves incredibly quickly with new technology, new trends, all that kind of stuff. Like price volatility is crazy. Maybe you're down for 5 months and it feels like a lifetime. And then in 1 month, you're up 50%. You've 2x'd your money after being down for that long, right? That experience of time is also very true when it comes to multinational global trade agreements, right? Like it's not going to take a month to get a new trade deal. It's going to take several quarters, most likely, to get a trade deal. And I would also say, like, even just a 10% tariff, which is what went into place when the delays happened, the 60-day or 90-day delays, I forget how long, but like a 10% tariff in the US market is a pretty big way to enforce some stuff because we're the largest market in the world, and any amount of tariff is cause for concern. And with me working in the private sector with the largest supply chain organizations in the world, because that's my day job, which I do need to get to eventually. But the private sector, if there's pain, puts pressure on the public sector, on the government, because they're like, you need to do something, like, because the public sector and the private sector both need each other. Public sector needs the private sector to employ people. The private sector needs the needs the public sector to make people feel secure. And that's a relationship there. So you put enough pressure on the private sector, they'll put pressure on the public sector.
If you've got a final thought, a question, suggestion, a good joke, or word of wisdom, this is the time for it as we prepare to mount our dogs and ponies as they're running out the door. While you get it ready, I do want to share, I did find this picture of Will and the interns with Commissioner Purse. If you're listening in podcast land, here it is. Business, business, business.
Mm-hmm.
Alex, you look like you're the gaffer, or maybe the best boy.
You look so much better now. You've lost a little bit of weight in your face. You look good
Everywhere.
Looks like you're everywhere on that hill, and
tamed the nonsense a little bit. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And I look like I just kind of showed up and it was like, oh, do you need someone to take the picture? Wait, can I be in the picture? And she's just so gracious to have given us her time. We got to get her back on the show.
Yeah, we do. It's been too long.
Going on. I have a message with her and with Bill, the best Bill on the hill, but I need to reach back out to them because I think it's been enough time. They probably have
definitely
grown frustrated with their talks, grown tired of it, and are ready to maybe talk to the public about it. So shout out Commissioner Purse and all the others working to give us some helpful, clear regulation. We have a comment here that said nothing about XRP filing to become a bank. We can talk about it tomorrow. Ripple's bank filing, what it might mean.
Not XRP, Ripple.
They didn't
That's exactly
file to
right.
become a bank. They filed to be allowed to do banking
For a
services.
bank charter.
Several other companies did the same thing at the exact same time.
Alex, none of that matters, though. You know what? Let's talk 30 minutes about it now. Let's get into it.
Let's talk about it tomorrow. We got to take our show off the road. I see Glenn is here. I see so many of our friends. Imagine is here. Thank you guys for being here, contributing to the conversation and being the best part of what we do. Alex, I'm going to go to you for a final thought. Will, I'll go to you for a final thought, and then we'll get the heck out of here. What do you got?
All right, my turn.
And that's
My
a
final thought is simply a deep sigh, and I'll see you guys in the morning.
All right, sweet. My final thought is I have, over the past few days and today, now that I'm back in my office, I feel such an excitement again for Web3 gaming. I want to dive. I have the itch so bad this morning. I'm going to be diving into like Immutable X's ecosystem in particular. The changes that Immutable X made to their migration over the past 3 weeks has really just like given me a shot of Web3 gaming straight to the arm again. And I'm so excited to dive into their ecosystem. I'm going to go grab a little bit of Immutable X. I'm going to go stake. I'm going to play around with their NFTs. I'm going to go play around with a few games. If you guys are unaware of all the changes Immutable X made, I made a video. It's on Twitter. It's on TikTok. It was a few days ago. Bunch of great changes. If you're a trader, you'll like it. If you're an investor, you'll like it. If you're a game developer or a game player, you're going to like it. There's something there for everybody. And it's really made me super pumped about it again. So I'm going to be getting into the ecosystem.
Okay, the show is not sponsored by Immutable X, but it could be.
Okay.
If you want more of Will's takes, then tune in tonight to Rise Up Macro Market. He'll be here with Doug to break down the global forces behind the charts, give you some practical insights on macro trends, technical analysis, and the bigger picture that every investor should know. If you want more on Joe Mangrum, our guest today, check out Joe Mangrum, MANGRUM.com. You can find him on X, Joe Mangrum, and Linktree. Joe Mangrum. Are you sensing a theme here? You can pre-order his book. You can check out his ephemeral art, and I am sure he would be glad to hear from you. And so would we, my friends. I want to tell you before we get out of here that if you like the Rise Up Morning Show, we're live Monday through Thursday at 7 a.m. Central Standard Time. Rise Up Macro Market is live for now.
Market Watch.
Monday. Market Watch. Will, you can't keep changing this title on me, man.
I told you at the beginning of the episode.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know how to sell this thing.
Join us for Rise Up Market Watch, formerly Macro Market, formerly Market Watch. You're going to have to text that to me tonight at 7 p.m. and Rise Up After Dark Wednesdays at 7 p.m. You can also find the recordings on your favorite podcast platform. All the links and so much more are waiting for you at the riseupmorningshow.com. And just because I got to say it, I'm wearing the pink shirt. Shout out to our friends at Polygon for powering the Rise Up Morning Show, and to all of you for being the very best part of what we do. We got to go. We'll see you tomorrow. And until then, my friends, everybody stay safe. Be well.